Welcome to another spiritual conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Spiritual DAO, and I have another fantastic guest with me today. My name is Tarun, and my guest for the day is many personalities and people rolled into one. She's done so many things in her life, and we want to talk about all of it and how yoga and spirituality comes in the picture. Ewelina Zablocka, all the way from Poland. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Tarun. Thank you for this lovely introduction.
And
I'm very happy to be here.
I've read about your journey and what you do, and I'm really curious to ask you a lot of questions about spirituality, yoga, finding oneself. I know for a fact that you are also in the process of releasing a book about the same topic, though it's in Polish, but you've researched a lot about it. You've lived the life of a yogi. You are living the life of a yogi. But before we talk about the life that you're living as a yogi, let's first talk about your life before yoga. I believe you've had a very troubled childhood or teenage. Would you like to tell us a little bit about your formative years?
Of course, I'm very happy to share. All right, so I come from Poland. I come from the family who, let's say, there was always a lot of love at the same time, but there was also a lot of pain, a lot of suffering. My parents got married when they were very young. They were 19, 20 years old when they got me. Then as they got pregnant, they decided, all right, we have to now move forward and get married. Although they were not really a happy couple, they used to argue a lot through all my childhood. The arguments were very intense, very aggressive, and just as a little kid growing up, I kept watching all of that pain which they were also going through, and then projecting it kind of on us as well, on the children. So yeah, a lot of suffering came out from this early years. Later on, once my parents got divorced, also I was in this years of transition from the childhood to the teenagehood to the early, let's say I was the 13 years old once my parents got divorced, and then I started to run away from home, run away into very destructive environment full of people who are just falling into deeper and deeper darkness. So as 13 years old, I started to explore cigarettes, alcohol, drugs, and then I just went into very deep darkness in all of that. I completely kind of lost myself. I had no idea why I'm living, what is the sense of life. I was also trying to commit suicide several times as I was a still child, because this 13, 14, 15 years old, we are a kid, right? So yeah, that was the time where I was just going through a lot of difficulties in my life. But today I'm so grateful for these years. I'm living completely different life, but I'm very grateful for these difficulties which I went through, because at some points I was feeling very ashamed for all the mistakes, all the wrong choices I took. But today I just see it as a beautiful lesson, because thanks to these lessons I can have so much understanding for people who are in their own darkness today. I can connect with different people. For example, one day I was in this train and it was amazing. I just met a couple of teenagers who were, at the end it turned out that they were just leaving the rehab school, so they were drug addicted kids. And yeah, we just had this amazing connection in the center, in the middle of the train, where the girl started to cry on my shoulder and I just shared with her my story, she shared with me her story. And it was beautiful because just through this openness about my difficulties, challenges, shame, fear, I could show her that, hey, there is a way out of it, and the way out of it is really beautiful, and I can just be grateful for all these difficulties.
Wow. You're such a positive person. It is really tough to believe that you've gone through so much. And I really would like to know how you could turn the whole situation around, and how did you find meaning in life? What became the trigger for you to change your life from there on?
Hmm. All right, so I don't know how to put it shortly, but I will try. So also in these years, of course, there were different relationships I was starting. As I was a teenager, also I stepped into very abusive relationship with one guy for a couple of years, where it was abusive anyway, psychological, emotional, physical. And I just kept, actually today I see how I was putting myself into this role of victim, because it was actually my own choice. I was just not respecting myself, not loving, not accepting. And I was searching for that, approval from the external world when I couldn't find it inside of myself. Later on, once I started to free myself through, just working with this victim rule and more self-acceptance, more respect for myself, I started to also build up stronger relationships. I don't mean only with partner, with the boyfriend at this time, but also the friendships, also the family connection, as all of that is just reflecting our inner state. So in these destructive moments, I was also surrounding myself with people who were distracting themselves. And once I became able to tell to myself, hey, this is not where I want to be in my life. I want to grow. I want to develop myself. I want to explore the world. I want to travel. I want to learn. I know there is so much more. And even though there was very strong attachment to the people we were not only they were pulling me down, but I was pulling them down as well, because we were just both kind of sinking. Then once I became able to just disconnect a little bit and go a little bit towards something what I feel in my heart. At this time, it was travels, it was sport, it was learning a little bit, very, very slowly about healthy kind of living. So all of that started to pull me out of the darkness. And then infinitely also there was love of my grandma, who I will always have in my heart. She passed away already many, many years ago, but she was like really my guardian angel. She was always, just seeing the best in me. So I think having someone who really loves you, who really cares about you, it just helps so much. But oftentimes we don't allow the love also inside of us. We are kind of blocking ourselves from love of our family, our beloved ones, our friends, whoever we connect with. Because sometimes we're just scared to open our hearts, to be loved as well. So on this journey of getting out of the darkness, I think there were exactly these few things, just to summarize, which was love of my beloved ones, of my family, which was just, experiencing things on my own, because we cannot learn it just by listening to the advices of other people. We really need to experience on our own the life. And then listening to my heart without being afraid, without, being so attached to the friendships, to the activities, to the things I do. And slowly I started to see a little light in the first that I mentioned. I went into fitness, into sport. I started to learn about diet, about healthy living. And this slowly put me in the direction of yoga, where everything changed.
What was your first encounter with yoga and when was it?
Oh, my first yoga class. I remember I came actually for a session here in the small town where my dad lives, where I come from. I came for this first yoga class and I was like, oh my God, this is so slow. I cannot do it. And in the middle of the class, because I remember the teacher was very calm, very slow. He was counting every breath very peacefully. And me in my head, it was like, boom, I cannot handle it. So I just left in the middle of the class. I was like, no, the yoga is not for me. How can you do something so slow, so peaceful? So that was my first encounter. But later on, I believe maybe few months later, I saw my friend, my Belgian friend. She was doing a headstand. And I'm like, wow, that looks really cool what she's doing. So I started to ask her, what is it actually? What are you doing? How this yoga works? You can do the headstand. And then she slowly started to show me what actually is this headstand. And through actually learning, from this very physical aspect, I got pulled into yoga. At this time, I just saw it as a headstand, as some kind of physical, nice exercises, which I was driven into. And once I started to practice, I started to explore how much more depth is there. And I still keep exploring it after 8 years of practice. But yes, I just started to observe the breath. I started to notice how my breath is deeply connected with state of my mind, with my physical body, with the emotions which I'm experiencing. So that was the very first thing, which I was like, wow, like there is something in the breath. And that's why I really went deeper and deeper into learning, into exploring, into practice of pranayama. Afterwards, also, there were different things coming up, of course. If we start to practice meditation, at the very beginning is very, very difficult, very challenging, because we're just not used to be in silence with ourselves, in stillness. So there is so much happening in our head, and we kind of keep avoiding these moments to be in silence with ourselves because we don't even know ourselves, to be honest. So in these moments when we start to meditate, there are so many distractions coming out, so much discomfort, so many thoughts. So the beginnings were very challenging. However, with the time, I started to explore just different levels of peace, of release, because also in the same time, different emotional patterns, different blockages, traumas from the past are kind of awakening in us. And they are kind of cleansing if we are sitting in that stillness and learning to be all right with whatever discomfort is there. And here we can put also different yoga postures. For example, I'm standing in some very uncomfortable yoga posture. If I panic and breathe through it quickly, I just want to get out of it. But if I just slow down my breath, if I just observe the state, how I am, I notice, oh, actually it's all right. I can be here. I'm not dying at this moment. I'm fine. And this understanding in the practice is kind of pouring later on into our daily life. So whatever difficulties we go through, whatever intense emotions, it can be, small daily things when we fall into anger, but it can be also bigger moments when we have accident, when we cannot move, laying in the bed for a long time, or when someone dies from our beloved ones. Also, this practice is being put into that as we just gain more balance, more understanding, and more harmony.
But isn't it easier said than done? Because I'm sure for a lot of beginners, when they start meditation, especially people who lives in big cities, people who are surrounded with a lot of technology around them, who are bombarded with a lot of information on a daily basis from various different media outlets, uh, to to deal with all those thoughts that come to you when you keep everything aside, sit down for a moment and want to meditate. Uh, there's way too many thoughts to deal with. What do you want to say to anyone who's beginning this journey and is finding it very tough to fight with all these thoughts?
I would say to start. And it doesn't mean that it will be easy, because it's not easy, definitely, but it's so worth it, because the life completely changes once we start to become in touch with ourselves, once we stop to, just run through our days and we start to actually live. And to start living, we really need to find more peace in our mind. And it's not definitely one step. It's just like a whole huge journey. I keep exploring it every single day. Recently, for example, I just did a 10-day Vipassana, which is a 10-day silent retreat led by amazing Goenkaji. So through these 10 days, you are sitting for around 12 hours per day and you're just meditating. You're in complete silence. You're just, like there is only you, meditation, and nothing else. So also this kind of experiences are just putting us into completely different state of our head. But definitely I didn't start with that. I started just very slowly. I started exploring different meditation techniques, different yoga practices. I was traveling a lot to India. I was going to different ashrams, different teachers, and just finding what worked for me. So that's what I would definitely advise to explore to any beginner, because there is so much knowledge, so many amazing teachers out there. And nowadays, we have internet, we have so many apps, we have YouTube, all of that. We can just explore, maybe find some short guided meditation, maybe find, explore few different things. And don't get also pushed away if there is something you don't like, because we don't have to get along with everyone. But if we keep exploring, we definitely will find something what matches into our way of living right now. And that's where we can gain inspiration and slowly start practicing. And then the practice of meditation can start, as I mentioned here, with the guided meditation. Or if you just want to be really in silence with yourself, you may put a timer for 5 minutes or 10 minutes slowly just sitting, observing your breath, observing the way you feel. Also, there are different forms of meditations which are more active. So meditation doesn't have to be sitting in this complete stillness, although we are definitely aiming towards it. But we can start with more active phases, which are including different kind of movement, different kind of breath work. All of that can help us just to release more of this agitation and be able to step into more silent, more still state of mind.
Right. But in this day and age where everything is fast paced, a lot of people want a lot of shortcuts for everything. They want quick results. Like you said, for the first time when you went for a yoga class, you felt that it's really slow.
Yeah.
What would you like to say to someone who feels this is way too slow for them to enjoy it or to be able to stay on the course?
I would say search for something else. Still stay on the path of, looking for some solution for yourself to find more peace, more tranquility in your life. Maybe if this teacher doesn't work for you, find the other one. Check the other one. Try a couple of different classes, 3, 5, 10. You can go for some shorter ones. You can just start with 10 minutes of practice or whatever works for you, but just start it every single day. Because if we really begin to bring it into our daily practice, that's when it actually started to give us the benefits. For example, when I used to work before as a cabin crew, as a flight attendant, I had zero routine in my life. But still, every day I would start the day with a gentle yoga practice and a very small meditation. It could be all together maybe 5 minutes.
Oh.
I would just sit on the bed, do a couple of stretches, twists, and then sit in silence for maybe 1 minute and just breathe and try to be still for 1 minute. So, and this was straight away changing the way how I would feel. And like I would adjust it to my lifestyle, because at this time I would sometimes wake up at 3 a.m., sometimes at 6 p.m. Like there was zero routine. But this 5 minutes, it would be always there, just on my own bed. And I think even such a small practice can have a huge impact, huge influence for the way how we go through the day.
Right. You mentioned your job. You were in Dubai. You're working with an airline, which is a very well-paying job in a fantastic place, of course. But then one day you decided that okay, you're going to leave it all and you're going to be a yogi. How did you make that decision? Was it tough for you to make?
Sorry. So yoga was in my life already before. Before I used to live in Italy. That's where I moved for the university. So I came from Poland. I moved to Italy around, excuse me, around 10 years ago. And that's where I just discovered yoga. That's when I went to Rishikesh for the first time and did my very first yoga teacher training. Then I came back to Italy and I decided, all right, now I want to start something new. I want to change my life, but I don't know really what. And somehow, like situation to situation led to me moving to Dubai and just getting the job there. I was working for Emirates, which is a really great airline. So I was flying for them for 3 years. And the way how I came there, it was also, I used to struggle big time with money before. When I was in Italy, I would still study and I would work at the same time. Actually, since I was like very, very young, I was still in high school, I would already start working in factory because I was never wanting to ask my father for money. I always had this thing like, no, I need to do things on my own. I cannot ask for money. So I would work with this hard labor stuff, getting like €1 per hour paid. And yeah, I had always big struggle with money. And then when I went to Dubai, everything changed completely. Like I had really good salary, I had beautiful apartment with swimming pool, sauna, and all of that, was like, all right, wow, that's a good life. So I remember this first one day when I started to get more money, I just went to the shop and I bought myself, all the things I wanted to buy before. So I bought some nice clothes, some nice handbag. And then I came back home and I'm like, oh God, did I really spend all this money for this stuff? Like I don't even need it. And at the same time, I was traveling around the world because, as a cabin crew, you can see a lot of places, even though it's for maybe 1 day or 2 days only. but still you get connected with the place. So I would travel to different third world countries and, just like see how some people struggle really just to get food, just to get water, just to, like have the very foundational basic things to live. And I'm going and buying all this bullshit stuff, which I feel like I want. So it hit me really very quickly. It hit me very quickly that this is not what I need. This is not what I want to be spending my money for. So I respect money and I want to have money, but I just realized that I want to spend them for different things. I want to spend my money to be able to contribute to the, different things I really feel they are important in my heart, to support different cases. Also, at the same time, I want to invest in myself, in my self-growth, in my development, in my passions, and so on. And also in experiences and exploring the world. So that's when I just kind of shifted my approach to money, and I would go much more minimalistic. So, I wouldn't buy anymore any clothes or stuff. I would just have some very basic things, but I would never feel sorry to buy a good quality food. I would not feel sorry to donate for something what I really want to support, to support my little sisters, my family. It would just feel so good in my heart. And at the same time, to travel, that was a huge thing because I just really love to travel, love to explore the world, and not in the kind of fancy way, but just in the way when I can really experience the places, connect with the local people. So that's where I started to put my money into. And in this way, I would never even spend, I don't know, half of my salary. So that was the slow shift which was happening in my life. And then I kept feeling all the time in my heart that I really want to go fully into yoga. And in the meantime, I kept teaching just like a small classes here and there. I used to teach 3 sessions in the building where I used to live for the cabin crew. And yeah, I just knew that I really want to go fully into teaching yoga. And after 3 years, I decided that I'm leaving this job. I'm leaving, my apartment, and I'm becoming kind of homeless person. So I just get rid of most of my stuff. I just packed, some stuff into boxes. I left it in my friend's house. The rest of things I donated, and I left Dubai with one backpack, let's say, like this big kind of backpack where I just packed all my life to. And I started to travel. I spent a couple of months in India, learning on different courses, exploring meditation, exploring yoga, Ayurveda. Then I was also in Bali. At the end, I ended up living in Bali for 1 year. And that's where I also started to work on the yoga teacher trainings, where I met love of my life, Rohil, who you also spoke with yesterday. And yeah, after a year in Bali, we spent a year in India, where again, India is always the place for growth, for learning, for just so much. So I'm really so blessed and grateful to have this beautiful country in my experiences in my life. So yeah, I'm talking too much.
Superb. You're inspirational. Your journey is very inspirational, Ewelina. And I'm glad that you chose yoga and you started teaching it. And now you do this full time. You teach all kinds of people yoga, and so many people are changing their lives. Their lives are getting better, all because you took up this on your own to make this the goal of your life. One last question that I want to ask you is, they say that you learn when you learn, but when you start teaching something, you learn a little better. So, any one thing that you've learned since the time you've started teaching yoga that you want to leave our viewers with?
Oh, I could again talk for half an hour, as you can see, but I make it short. Every single time when I'm teaching, I'm learning. Every single time I'm growing, because we are just learning from each other. It's not that I'm teacher, someone is student. There is just a name to call it. And this is, some part of knowledge which I have and this person maybe doesn't, but they have so much of different knowledge and we just keep exchanging. So we keep learning from each other. We keep growing together. And the one huge thing, if I can put it into something, what I really learn when I'm teaching is fear. So crossing my fear, crossing the borders of fear. Oftentimes when we are afraid of something, and I was actually big time afraid of public speaking, I was very scared. I was very uncomfortable in the small conversations with a couple of people, or if I had to stand on the stage, like to speak into a bigger group, it was always overwhelming me. So teaching definitely helped me to break through this fear and to notice that, wow, I can speak, I can find the power in my voice if I only find the truth which I want to share. So if I'm forced to speak on some topics which are not really meaningful to me, that's when I actually struggle. But if there is something what I want to share from the depth of my heart, it just comes so naturally. And of course, also it comes step by step. It's not that every day I was feeling, like, wow, I can speak, speak, speak. Some days I would have really big struggles with the self-confidence. I would cry and kind of have this, shaky hands, squeeze stomach when I'm about to speak in front of others. But I just always kept going through this fear. And I know that whenever we go through the fear, we just become stronger. We grow, we grow, we grow. And then only we can, keep exploring how much more is there to live, to share.
So for anyone who's listened to this conversation till this point here, I just want to ask you one thing. What are the things that you fear the most that you really don't want to face? Uh, go by what Ewelina has told us. Face your fears, and you'll probably come out stronger on the other side and a better person. Make it a practice, and of course, we'll make it a practice to bring Ewelina back on this show again and again. So we get to learn more things about yoga and meditation and all that's going on with her life. And of course, learn a few things every time we talk to her. Thank you so much for your time and talking to us, Ewelina.
Thank you so much, Tarun. It was really a pleasure. Thank you.
Absolute pleasure talking to you.